Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining this member update. We're pitching it really as an annual review. There's been a lot of changes happening in Vulcan this last year, and some more changes happening right now and going into the beginning of next year. And we thought we would bring all of our members together, the voting member representatives of each of the organizations, and just give you an update on some of those changes and to let you ask some questions. So the format is I'm going to give a 10 to 15 minute overview of some of the organizational changes that have happened this year. And then three of the key sections of your PMO are going to give you an update on what's happening in their areas. And then we'll have some questions at the end. So if everyone's okay with that, we'll get started. So Lisa, do you want to go to my first slide? So 2025 has been a year of progress and preparation, as it says at the top here, organizational change, really. In Q4 2024, the then steering committee formed an interim steering board that was tasked with reviewing the position that the organization was in and making some recommendations about how it should reform itself. And that's been happening all year. We had anticipated we would complete that earlier, but now that's coming to conclusion now, and we can tell you about that today. So I'm going to focus on two key documents that you'll be, as voting members, you'll be required to review and vote on. I'll describe that in a moment. One will be about our vision. As you can see over the side here, we've got a pyramid with the vision, mission, goals, and objectives, the methodology that we're using to focus the operations. And then we'll also look briefly at the proposed new governance structure. You'll note on the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little footnote there saying pending approval by the voting members. We're very conscious, and the founders of the organization are very conscious of the HL7 principles of being transparent and democratic. And whilst this interim steering board have worked very hard to pull together these, they really require you as the 52 voting members to approve this. And once it's approved by you, we will then, as your PMO, go and implement this. So what's been happening this year then? So we had this major organizational development where we reviewed how we were going, how we were operating. We had a number of implementation guides at various different stages of development, and we successfully, in partnership with ASTP, had put on the Vulcan Interoperability Bridge, which was focusing more on use cases. And the organization realized that there was a huge potential, a huge opportunity here. And so Filippo and myself were hired, and we've had some new appointees come into the PMO. And there was a strategy meeting back in March, and we started developing a strategy. And the key aspects of that strategy were to become more of a global organization than we had been previously, and to also focus on the full data value chain across what we're now calling the research to care continuum. So this process of creating a new organizational structure was to bring greater clarity and transparency and stability to the organization. And as I said before, the transparency and democratic leadership part is what we wanted to do. So we have a restructured program management office that we're going to introduce to you later. And also we've been expanding, as I said, globally. And this year we've had two major events. One was in partnership with TEDAS, the European Health Data Space, and we've been strengthening our ties in Europe there. And then in November, a contingent of us went back to Japan and were on a panel at the Japanese Association of Medical Information. But also we went and did a second workshop with the PMDA, and we engaged potential new members and existing members in the Asia Pacific region in Japan and started developing stronger ties there for our expansion there. So hopefully what you'll see after we finish the meeting today is that we've been through this transitional phase. There's a fantastic foundation established by Amy and her colleagues who had the inspiration to start this organization, and with your support as our members, have managed to establish um, a really capable organization. But the opportunity was to turn that into a strong platform for growth, and that's what we're trying to do for this next year. Next slide, please, Lisa. So, as I said to you before, when you signed your statements of understanding, and for some of you, that's nearly 7 years ago, so you may have forgotten what they look like. But in there, it defined a structure, and the previous steering committee, the operations committee, included one voting member for every organization and project leads and anyone else that was involved in running the organization. And out of that operations committee, there was a steering committee with close to 30 members on that. And I think I wasn't there at the time, obviously, but my understanding is that it was becoming quite complicated and quite difficult to maneuver. And we wanted to introduce a new structure for the organization. And so the interim steering board was formed. Amy formed that, and a subcommittee has worked this year with HL7, with support from HL7, and with the operations committee and various other members to put together this new structure. So this is a graphic of the new structure. You'll see at the bottom right-hand corner, it's pending your approval. There will be a voting process to approve this, and you will be sent links to all of the charters and the details of each of these committees. So you'll be able to work out the terms and how people get appointed and how the operations will work. But in general, we have the blue governance structure is the volunteers, and the operations committee represents all of you. There's one voting member per organization in the operations committee, and the project leads from all the projects. And you'll see later we are proposing also creating a regional subcommittee of the operations committee. But in order to give direction to the organization, we needed to identify a steering committee. And with the principles that we had before, we've reduced the number of membership types down from 7 that you had previously to 5. And you can see these labeled on these grey boxes. And we're recommending here that you have 2 representatives of each of those membership groups, whereas before you had 3, sometimes, 3. And there were other ex officio members in there, which is why that previous steering committee got up to such a large number. So we are proposing calling it a steering committee going forwards, as per the statement of understanding, but to be restricted to 2 elected voting members per membership type, voted by you, the voting members in this meeting. And that will mean there will be a steering committee of 13 members, a chair and a vice chair, and the chair won't be voting on any motions that are put to the committee. This is following the working group examples from HL7. You'll also see that we're going to continue the advisory council. We'll have 2 co-chairs. These won't necessarily be representatives of member organizations. They will be key luminaries in the sector, and they will be advising either the operations committee or the project teams or any aspect of what we're doing. And this year we started a public notice committee to respond to the various public notices that there are out there. Right, so the blue boxes are volunteers. Over on the yellow boxes there, you see that we have HL7, which is the ultimate legal owner of this, that's Accelerator. And then this new project management office, the PMO. And in there, we put the organogram of the contributors who are your PMO at the moment. You have myself as the head of Vulcan and Filippo as the PMO lead. Our duties are probably separated. It would be a useful analogy would be CEO and COO. But Filippo is basically the technical director, and the program management lead runs all of the projects, as many of you will know. And I run the organization and make sure that all of the aspects are going. And then you'll meet the other contributors that are in the organogram there. Okay, so that's the structure. I've just given you a whistle-stop tour of it. You'll have time to read each of the charters at your leisure, hopefully over Christmas, over the holidays. And then we'd ask you to vote on that. So can you go to the next slide, please, Lisa? The other aspect that we wanted to do was to clarify our strategy. And there's a number of different methodologies for doing strategy. We've adopted one that's has a hierarchy of four tiers. The first tier is our vision. It's why we're all here. What are we doing this for? Why do we turn up to do this? And you can see there well, if you're aware of the HL7 one, we've mirrored the HL7 one, but we've introduced this concept of research to care continuum. So our vision is a world where everyone has access to secure, timely, and accurate health information, empowering informed decisions throughout the research to care continuum. We had a lot of debate about whether it's clinical research or translational research, and whether it's clinical care or whether we mean real world data, and we mean all of that. So we're talking about from the development of a trial or research at the research end, all of the interconnected systems, all the way down to the clinical care end, largely around the electronic health record, but other systems around that space as well. So that's the continuum we're talking about there. In this hierarchy, this tiered hierarchy of how we want to develop the strategy, we need a medium-term goal, a medium-term achievement that we're focusing for, and that's our mission. And our mission is to establish a global community accelerating interoperability in the research to care continuum through the adoption of HL7 Fire. And so this hopefully makes it clear what we're trying to do. We're trying to build this community. It's global, which is why we've done some significant events globally this year. And we're also focusing on not just the development, but the adoption of HL7 Fire. So that's our mission. The mission is broken down into goals and objectives. The goals are referred to as necessary and sufficient. So if we ever achieve the goals, all four goals you'll see in a moment, then we will have completed the mission. And in order and in order to complete the mission, every single one of those goals is required. So that's the concept of the goals. And then the objectives that are not one-to-one mapped to the goals, the objectives, anytime there's an objective, a smart objective developed, that smart objective should be delivering on at least one or more of the goals. Next slide, please, Lisa. So these are the goals. There's a lot of words on here, I know, and I presented this as pending approval when I was in Japan and also in Copenhagen. And what I'll do is just focus on the titles for now. You'll have more time to look at them later. But the four necessary and sufficient goals that we need to do are to engage the research to care community with FIRE. That's the first goal. So if we've got people using FIRE in the research to care community, then that's part of delivering on our mission. If we've engaged our members, that's you and then hopefully new members that join, to develop FIRE implementation guides and use cases, then again, we are delivering on that mission. So our second goal is to engage members to develop FIRE implementation guides and use cases. The third goal is to support the adoption of FIRE across that research to care continuum. And so that's our third goal, and that's required to deliver on that mission. And then the final goal, which in fact a lot of the work has been done this year to put the groundwork in on this, is to develop Vulcan to foster long-term growth and impact. So develop and establish us as an organization in this space. So they're the four goals. Again, you'll get more time to read those later. I'm just giving you an overview now so you get the structure. Next slide, please, Lisa. So as part of this strategic development plan that we've been doing, it's been done by the interim steering board, appointed a subcommittee that worked closely with us at the PMO to convert some of the tasks that we were working on into smart objectives. We've currently got a backlog of over 20 smart objectives. Hopefully you all know that acronym. It's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound, I think. But it's basically, it specifies what the goal is, and it's what the objective is, sorry, and it puts it in a time frame, and it makes it measurable. And we have over 20 of them in the backlog, and the strategy subcommittee will meet regularly to help prioritize that backlog and to look at those metrics to see how the organization are doing on them. I've put 7 up on the screen now, but I'm going over my time, so I won't read through all of those. You can see them yourself. You can see some of the smart objectives that we've been working on, and they should all be tied to at least one of those goals. And that ensures that what we're doing is driving that mission that has been presented, which hopefully when you get a chance to vote on it, you will approve over the next few weeks. So next slide, please, Lisa. Okay, so where are we? The approval and governance plan has been drafted and approved by the interim steering board, and the strategy has been drafted and reviewed by the interim steering board, and it's now time for that to go to you, the members, to approve. At the point you would approve that, the steering board have agreed to dissolve the steering board and a new steering committee will be elected. So nominations for that steering committee will be going throughout December and January. We'll be soliciting nominations for those. And just to be clear, a number of the interim steering board will transition and put themselves forward as nominations to be elected onto the new steering committee. And then elections will take place in February, and the new steering committee will be established in March. And then the formal dissolution of the interim steering board will happen then. And at this point, I would like to say that as part of this drive to the principles of transparency and democracy that we've been talking about, and as part of having worked very hard to get to where we are, many of you will have seen the announcement from Amy that she will be standing down as the chair. So when we have a new steering committee appointed, that steering committee will be electing a new chair. And I'd just like to take this moment to thank Amy for her inspiration and energy and drive for getting the organization into the incredible position it is today, to give it on a world stage, being able to talk to people and engage people across our community to develop and adopt fire. And so Amy and her colleagues did a fantastic job to get us here, and we should all be very grateful for that. But she'll be stepping back from her role as chairman of the board. So I've just told you about the interim steering board's outlined structured transition plan. Um, and I think that brings me to the end. So can you go to, yes, my next slide, your next slide, sorry. So yes, I'd like to thank you all for coming to the meeting, and tell you have questions at the end after you've listened to these the next few pieces. And so we've got about 10 to 15 minutes at the end for questions. And I look forward to talking to you then. So thank you, Lisa. Over to you.
Thanks, James. I'm now going to move on to talk about membership, and I'm really honoured to be taking the lead in Vulcan around membership, because ultimately membership is at the heart of everything that Vulcan does, and your involvement is about what drives everything forward. So in my new role, I'm here to really make sure I understand your priorities, but also make sure you get a strong return on your investment, be that the time that you give to projects or sharing your thought leadership or the financial fee that you pay. I want to make sure really that you're seeing a good return. So your needs, your priorities, that's what, and the idea is that it shapes what Vulcan may become in the future and make it stronger than what it is today. And it's always already in a really, really great shape. So I'm honoured to be able to take it on and work with you. And over the last few weeks, I have been speaking to many of you on a one-to-one basis. And thank you so much for all of your insights. I'm super keen to meet with all of you and hear about your ideas. So if I don't get to you first to try and get something in the diary, then please reach out and let's talk and make a conversation for 2026. So looking at member benefits, I wanted to cover this one. For those of you who are new to the community, or maybe you haven't looked at this for a while, I wanted to briefly highlight the key benefits that you have as members. And these are taken directly from our refreshed member value proposition, and I'll make sure that you all get a copy of that. But just to touch on each of them, so the visibility and thought leadership, we really do give members the opportunity to get up on stage at many of our events and talk about what you know and talk through your use cases. For 26, we've got a great plan of events coming up, so I will be in touch about all of those opportunities that you may be able to take part in. And then we've got the content amplification. And I know Rachel's going to talk about this in more detail when she talks around marketing. But there are opportunities to take part in our new spotlight sessions, and they're getting some great traction, and we'll be pushing those out through social media. But we really want to work with you to make you the stars of the show and talk about what it is you're doing. Then perhaps the most important benefit here is the influence and belonging and those projects that we work on that really do help shape Vulcan's roadmap. And you all have a voice there in terms of how we can move those forward. And Filippo will touch on projects and where we are today and how you may be able to get involved in the future and, lead on some of those IGs that we work on, and also be recognised on an annual basis for the work we do. And of course, you also gain access to that trusted global network across the whole of the membership, regulators, standards bodies, all those initiatives that pull a mix of stakeholders together. And during my time working with Vulcan, I think, we're really seen now as that central umbrella that brings everything together. By being involved as a member, these are some of the things that you're receiving from us, and hopefully more ideas to come to shape that further. I wanted to touch on our membership and where we are today. And obviously, we're in a really strong place with 50 really key members, but we've got an ambition for growth. We know that there are companies missing from this list. We're in contact with many, having those great conversations to try and get them on board and be part of the community to move Vulcan on at a faster pace. At this point, I guess I'd like to ask for your help. There are people that you may know that you think are missing, and if you can help me, put me in touch with the right people. There's nothing better than a member making introductions to give that warm approach. But the message there is we really are looking to grow our membership over the next 12 months and bring new people into our conversations. I'm also looking after events, and again, another exciting part of the Vulcan membership and the Vulcan experience for our community. So I wanted to cover these off with you today as well. And we've broken our events down into three key tiers, as you can see them here. So tier 3 is very much on our policy and our strategy and going on stage at world events. And we're already in conversation this year around collaborating for a number of different events in Europe, and James mentioned the APAC region. So there's some great things happening there and more to come. And then we've got our tier 2, which is around user engagement and user cases. And then our tier 1 around real deep workshops and those connectathons. And we will be showcasing our full agenda of events moving forward, and we'll get those shared with you as soon as we can. The one event that we are quite far on in terms of its development is the Fuse Pavilion that we have in March in Texas. And I wanted to showcase the high level agenda here, but we will be coming out to members to ask you to be involved, speaking and really getting involved and coming along. And this is a great event to really showcase some of the great work that we're doing. Yes, we will be in touch about that in a little bit more detail. And before I hand over to Rachel, I guess key message from me is we're really excited about 26. Some great activities for you to be involved in, but I think a real year for growth. And I'm excited to be working with you all on that. So Rachel, without further ado, I am going to hand over to you on marketing.
Perfect, Lisa. Thank you so much. I love that update. And I'll get right into some wins that we've had this year with marketing. Um, so we really entered the year to set up good foundations, right? And build towards success. Like Lisa said, I really also view that 2026 will be a big year of growth. We have, like the slide says, built some really good foundations this year. We saw a website makeover. Our domain rating is up 20 points. That's about halfway to where we really want to be. We issued our and for context, the domain rating is how search engines trust our website. So when somebody searches for something, the domain rating is basically a sign of how likely is Google or Bing or any of the other search engines likely to suggest our website for any given query. We also had our first press release in August covering the VIB cohort, the Vulcan Interoperability Bridge. We had our first cohort this year, and the press release announced their success. That press release earned us a media win. We're working on an interview right now with Healthcare Innovation, and we're hoping to see something in print in the early parts of next year coming from that media outlet. We also invested in some some video recaps on social media. We've got recorded sessions up on YouTube now, making them more accessible for on-demand replays. And marketing has put together promotional reels, different videos from events. We've upgraded our PowerPoint templates. We've created branded templates for social media, all to give ourselves a cohesive, branded, professional look for anybody who is viewing us, right? So that we can always put our best foot forward. And of course, marketing worked with events to support 2 co-sponsored international conferences this year. So we had a busy year. A lot of good things came out of it. We've got some early wins to talk about, and I'm very excited going into 2026. So Lisa, if I can ask next slide, some of the things that we have on deck that we're working on. We are setting up a monthly newsletter that I'm really hoping that the first one will come out this month. That's my goal. So we are sending monthly newsletters to boost engagement with our members, to honestly have better communication with you guys. We want you to know what's going on. We want to be really consistent in our communication with you about different opportunities for speaking at events, opportunities for thought leadership, or just new things that are going on with projects. We want to really foster good communication so that we can have the engagement in the community. That's why we're all here, right? We want to engage and connect and grow. And so good communication is the start of that. And that is also where you will be able to find notices about submissions for thought leaderships is coming through our monthly newsletter, links, submission forms, all of that good stuff. As Lisa mentioned, we have new opportunities on social media for spotlights, and we do have our first ones in progress. The first one will probably be up this month, but we will really definitely be getting rolling in January. Our goal is to have 2 every single month, and so this is something that we continue to need nominations for. Every year you can nominate your organization and a thought leader within your organization. So you can have a total of 2 in the calendar year, one centering on your organization, your company, why they're backing Vulcan, the projects that they're involved in, and how your organization is leading the way. And then you can also have one on a very specific thought leader. And that would be more aspirational. It'd be like why that individual feels that this is important, what that individual's background and expertise is, and what they're hoping to drive in the organization. So please take advantage of this. We do all the writing. It's an interview. We set up a phone call. It's an interview. We make sure it gets produced. You get to review it before it goes out, and then we boost it online to make sure that you get the visibility that your thought leadership deserves, right? So it's a low lift on our membership end, but it advances your thought leadership, it advances the mission of Vulcan, and it helps to increase collaboration in our community. So please be in touch with me if you are interested in signing up for a social media spotlight. Looking forward to hearing from you on that one. We are also planning to launch interest groups, and this would be a Slack community. We are ready to launch this as soon as we have some leaders, but we need individuals from we need members from our organization to kind of say, yes, I will be in charge. I will lead this specific community group on Slack. It's a very low lift. We are really only asking you to kind of be the admin of that group. There will be times when there is 0 activity in that chat room. There will be times when things are really happening with the project, and so therefore there's a lot of activity. but we need one person to kind of be in charge, right? And this is the interest groups, once they launch, will be free. You do not have to be a member to join the interest groups. This is a way that we see that we plan to foster engagement outside of our community, right? This is a draw for people to really start to see and get a taste of the value of Vulcan. Hopefully, then they join as members, but it's not a member exclusive option. It's something that people can join, ask questions, learn about the projects, see the value, and then go back to their organizations, hopefully, and say, hey, we'd like to join Vulcan so that we can get involved with this project in a more tangible way. Here's why I can honestly and sincerely say it's going to be of value to our organization. So that's my email at the bottom of this slide, rachel.warnock@hl7vulcan.org. Please reach out if you would like to volunteer for a social media spotlight, or if you are interested in running one of the Slack groups. We'd love to have you. We really would. And I promise it's not a very big lift. So with that, I am going to turn it over to my colleague, Filippo. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm Filippo Napoli, PMO lead for Vulcan. I'm here to talk to you about projects. Since hopefully all of you know, next month this month in actually 1 week, we have our monthly operation committee meeting, which is December 10th, next Wednesday. I try to be light on projects since we'll be doing a more deep dive during that meeting. I have, if you can please move to the next slide, Lisa. We'll start by talking about projects at a high level during this meeting. Those are the 8 projects that Vulcan is currently engaged in. I'll give you quick updates again for each one of them. And like I said, next week we'll be doing a more deep dive. So on adverse events, this project is it's completed. It's under the adoption phase. We're looking for implementers, and at this moment, we actually engage with Codex because there may be some synergy between the projects. They have a pharmacovigilance use case, a project that potentially might be something that we might be involved in. From EPI, the next project. This one, the version 1 is completed and it's open for adoption as well. And we're working on version 2. Version 2 will most likely go live in September 2026. We currently worked on the EPI version control. We're trying to make the validation rules a bit more business friendly. And I think we're very close to being done. So I don't see any problem with publishing in September with this project. The next project is schedule of activities. Version 1 is completed, and we've been working on version 2. As you know, version 2 was, we attempted to publish in 2025, but because of Connectathon feedback, we kind of had to go back to the drawing board and improve on the development of the trial planning. We've used help from Andy Richardson and Patrick Jenin, which have published a paper on how to use schedule of activities in clinical trial, and we are adopting now their methodology into SOA. So far, so good, and that's why we actually plan to test during the Connectathon in January, next month. This will be one of our tracks at the Connectathon. The next project is UDP. This one is also going very well. It's our first project that is adopting Release 6 of FHIR, which has its dependencies, meaning Release 6 has to be published before we can publish our IG, for example. We already did a successful Connectathon, and we are actually going into another Connectathon next month with this project, and we also looking to do one other round of ballots, and the idea here is to get more feedback. We did get feedback, but our implementers would like to have more technical challenge and discussions around the digital protocol and perhaps more use cases. In fact, one of the things they've asked the teams is to bring their own use cases so we can expand on that during the Connectathon. Then we have Fire Tool Map. This one again is it's almost done. We did ballot in September, and we just looking to at this point close and resolve those ballot tickets. And once those get closed, the objective is to publish, which hopefully will happen between December and January 2026. And also in the works is version 2, because this one will be publishing as informational. So we're looking to upgrade to an SDU ballot type for next year. Phenomics Exchange. We're looking for updates actually from our team. We are very close on finishing our IG, and the objective was to try and publish if in January, if possible. But we're very close, so it's either going to be in January or the May ballot cycle, depending on the team's results and feedback we get. The next one is real world data. Again, this is another one of our projects that it's been completed and it's during the adoption phase. In this project right now, we are getting involved with READY, which is a European project that is focused on diversity and clinical trial matching. We are looking for new implementers, and we're hoping that we can find more interested organization we can work with on this IG, and I'll give more updates next week as to the plan. The last but not least, this is our new project that was started actually the end of this year. It's APEX. It stands for API Exchange. And this project is actually going really well. We are ahead of schedule already. We've been working on the API structure of the message. And for those of you who are not too familiar with it, it's very close to EPI. So during EPI, you have the structure of the message on how to send medicinal product information. With Apex, we're basically structuring the message itself and the workflow with the regulators, because that workflow itself is very long. And as you're going to see next week, we're trying to make a big change and improve that workflow to make it more expedient. So this is my light update on projects. If we move to the next slide, we'll talk about a question that I get often. How do I bring forward a use case? So you'll see there is a new step, I believe it was step 6. Sorry, I'm looking at the steps here. I think something got lost in the copy and paste transaction here, but let me go through them and I'll highlight where the changes will be. Usually the project process starts with somebody submitting a proposal. We have a Vulcan project intake form on our website, so you can submit one right on our website, which will move us to step 2. The PMO team gets notified and we'll be moving the use case to a kind of a review phase where we'll be looking at it. And then we will reach out to the requester and we'll have, of course, follow-up questions. And the outcome will be that we will fill out the project proposal form. That usually takes a couple of days. I know we do have a lot of questions, but they're going to be helping us to fill out the project proposal form and project scope statement with the HL7 team going forward. After this, there is the phase where what we call discovery phase, where the operating committee chairs and the advisory council get engaged and they score the project. They look at the project itself and how, for example, it aligns to Vulcan's mission. And after their investigation, and this should have been that's step 6. It doesn't say new, but it's the new step where we're going to be looking to go to Vulcan members from the operating committee to see if you can endorse perhaps a project or maybe you like to contribute or lead a project. So before starting a project, you'll be engaged, and so you can let us know what you think about it, and I believe that that's going to be a big change and a big improvement. Because I know some projects, talking to members, they especially now, most there's quite a few of you that show interest in other projects, and I found that that those conversation and especially your contribution to the other projects very constructive, and it's been very valuable to the other projects. So I think it's going to be good to be a bit more proactive and have you involved right from the beginning. And after that, we'll move on with the natural step, which was to bring it up to the steering committee. The project will be addressed by both the requester and the PMO team, which will be presenting this to the steering committee for a discussion and approval. And upon their approval, their project would either be approved or sometimes, right, we put on the backlog of to be started at a later point. And one other thing which is not here, we're trying to see how it's going to be working out with the new structure, because we do have quite a bit of requests on, and also a backlog is growing with projects. We like to set up a more standardized way for us to approve projects. So perhaps we'll have periods during the year where we'll be doing these nomination and approvals of projects. So instead of doing first come, first served, we'll have periods during the year where we all kind of, review all the projects we have and pick one to move forward. And we'll have to review and see what's reasonable, right? We can't be doing 20 projects in a year, although we love to. So more news to come on that soon. And I think that was, do I have more slides? I believe that was the last one, right? Very good. I see some discussions on the chat. Do we have questions for projects or?
We've got two questions have come in so far, and we're perfectly on time. So that was well done, everyone. So yeah, there's two questions in the the question and answer session. Lisa, how do we progress this?
Do you want me to read them out and we answer them?
Are they available? Can all of the members online see the questions?
I'm unsure, so let me read each question.
Yeah, so the first one is for Rachel to take, and then the second one from Anna Moen is for me to take. So if you read them out for everybody,
Yeah,
and
of
then
course.
we'll do
So
Rachel's
Rachel,
first and then mine.
Rachel, for you, the new channels for communicating with Vulcan that you talked about, we had Zulip before. Is that no longer in use?
So Zulip is still um, the preferred item for HL7. However, we decided to go with Slack for a variety of reasons. One, the Fire to OMOP project already has a Slack channel that they're using for their communication and coordination. Two, Slack has significantly more users. It's significantly more known and used globally, which we wanted this to be something that people who were not necessarily members could join. And because so many organizations use Slack as their internal company communications, it would be very, very easy for someone to add a new Slack channel to their existing company account and just switch back and forth between the Vulcan channel and their company channel. It's likely already on their cell phones. It makes the user, it's a better user experience. And so it's very easy for for them to access us and to join into our community if we go through Slack as opposed to Zulip. So those were the decisions, or the reasons why we made that decision. But good
It's got a
question.
real community. It's got a real community feel to it
It
as well, hasn't
does.
it, Rachel?
It does, and it's so easy to access.
To add to that, Lisa, we still, of course, have Zulip, and we plan to use Zulip to go to our HL7 working groups and existing channels for technical questions. But we do believe that's mostly for technical questions. So we like Slack to be the community channel, or the place where community can ask any questions. And then if we need to escalate or get somebody involved from HL7, we can always use that other channel, which again is more for technical purposes.
Thanks, Filippo. Moving on, and I should say if we do have time for more questions, so if anybody else wants to put a question in the Q&A tab, then please do. But for James from Anemone, can you elaborate on the alignment and foreseen interactions between the HL7 Vulcan PMO team roles and the HL7 working groups and the wider HL7 community?
Yeah, that's a great question, Anna. Thank you. So if you remember from the graphic at the beginning that showed the structure, the PMO are the Vulcan accelerators representatives for delivery. So all of the volunteers are represented in Vulcan, and the steering committee gives leadership to the PMO. But we're all contracted by HL7. So we're engaged or employed or contracted by HL7. So we're really heavily connected to HL7 because of time zones and things. Filippo goes to more of the meetings than I do, but we certainly keep up with each other on the conversations, and we talk to the other accelerators and the various different bodies within HL7. In terms of the working group meetings, then we we attend with our members. So, for example, we were in Pittsburgh and Madrid this year, and we're intending on to be at both the major events next year. And our purpose there is to support the members in the connectathons and in the various meetings and just basically helping spread the word about what we do. Um, I must say that I mean I'll speak for on my behalf. I'm sure Filippo feels the same. When we joined to to lead this Vulcan accelerator, and it's taken quite a while to really understand the full extent of what HL7 is. And we in our joint event with TEDAS, we made great connections with HL7 in Europe, and we are working with HL7 in Europe now to put together um, some activities around the working group meeting. So, I mean, in answer to the question, we're doing as much as we can there, and we will be led by you, the members, via your steering committee on how much more we should do. Hopefully that answers your question, Anna. But yeah. Any other questions from anybody?
Nothing else coming through, James?
Well, I think I can ramble on for a little bit just to see if there's any questions coming in. But I would like to thank everyone for coming to the meeting. It's been great to have you here. We intend to do more of these meetings. The operations committee meetings, monthly meetings will be, sorry, monthly will transition more to a webinar style event. We'll be recording those as this is recorded as well. This will be available so that any of the members that weren't able to attend will be able to watch it, and we'll circulate it as widely as possible. The same will happen with the operations webinar meetings that we're going to be doing monthly, and we'll be doing various updates each month there to give you a view of how things are going and where we need more support and more engagement. So I'd encourage you to get involved. Also, I mean, really, those spotlights are a fantastic opportunity. Talking to one of our members who's trying to recruit somebody with specific fire skills, and I said being able to talk about your fire experience within your organization and us publicizing that on LinkedIn for you. It's good for us as an organization because it gets more people engaged in real content, but it's also great for our member because then people can see that they're recruiting people with fire expertise. It gives that there. So there are a number of different uh, value propositions for you within there. And our aim is to grow the number of engaged um, people. So whilst there's a target for growing the number of member organizations, that's a surrogate really. The key thing that we all need in our implementation guide meetings, our use case meetings and our event planning meetings is we need volunteer members. We need manpower, and LinkedIn is part of the way of doing that. So I'd encourage you to uh, volunteer to do one of the spotlights. As you know, as Rachel was saying, there's no heavy lifting on your part. You just get interviewed and it gets drafted by professionals for you. but also to like and share and add comments to any HL7 Vulcan material that you see, because it will then get circulated around your network and we'll get more people involved.